This week on Sci-Fi Buzz, uncovering more treasures from the movies in Bob's basement. Buzzing with sci-fi writer Terry Pratchett. The creative minds behind Highlander. And if there's anyone who can convince you those alien abductions are for real, it's abductee Whitley Strieber, author of Communion.
I want to be asked the question, are they aliens? And to face the fact that it's something I've got to answer, but I just can't.
Prepare. Stand by. The Buzz.
Movies. Personalities.
Sci-Fi. FX.
Behind the scenes.
Cutting edge. Get ready.
Sci-Fi Buzz.
Hello, Buzzers. Mike Jarek here. We're going to start the show with a very important statement. I need your help. Repeat after me. Staff, let's do this.
The 21st century will begin January 1st, 2001.
Let's do it one more time. A little bit louder.
The 21st century will begin January 1st, 2001.
Now, this statement comes from
the World Almanac,
the Royal Greenwich Observatory,
the Naval Observatory,
the Encyclopedia Britannica,
the Webster's Third International Dictionary.
So why is everybody getting so excited about celebrating the new millennium on January 1st, 2000?
We don't know.
Then who the heck does? I mean, seriously, Buzzers, let's get this together. It's like the people that get excited when their odometer goes from 1999 to 2000. I kind of actually get excited about that. But you're celebrating 1 year too early if you do that. You get the idea? Okay. Now, hold on a second. Hold on. I'm not through with this. Here's another example. You're counting to 100. You get there around 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. You got to go one more to 100. So if you celebrate the new millennium in the year 2000, you're 1 year too early. You got it?
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, I feel better. Okay, bring it in.
From the X-Files on TV, to Independence Day on film, to a slew of sites on the internet. Aliens are among us in a big way these days. But do they really come to Earth and abduct humans? Well, that depends on who you ask.
A certain type of intellectual is never going to believe this because it's too challenging to their egos. The average person pretty much believes that there's certainly something weird going on.
Whitley Strieber is the best-selling author of nonfiction books like Communion and Breakthrough, which chronicle his experiences with what he calls visitors.
I don't know what is out there. There's no proof that there's aliens out there. What there is proof of is that something very unusual is happening to a lot of people. And I feel that in becoming more conscious of this and understanding it, we can begin to make use of our side of the relationship, to learn what we can about this, eventually to nail it down in a factual way.
Alvin Lawson, a former English professor and UFO investigator, is perched on the other side of the issue.
I'm really the party pooper. I'm coming in and saying, look, gang, there's no Santa Claus. And no one wants to see that kind of guy come around.
Lawson's involvement in a research program in the mid-70s compared hypnosis sessions of abduction victims with those of non-victims. The study produced the birth memories hypothesis. The theory contends that abductees are merely reliving the trauma of being born.
When the baby is out, it feels this incredible expansion. It's often cold. The lights are bright. All of these things are what the abductees report.
But Whitley Strieber is used to having the validity of his claims challenged.
My first encounter was really far from the birthing process. There were elements of it that sort of infantilized me, it's true. But I think it's just a theory. It's unprovable.
This is no good. I can't do this.
Whitley, tell me what you see.
Strieber has been an outspoken voice on the abduction issue since Communion was published a decade ago. The book was adapted into a 1989 feature film with Christopher Walken portraying Strieber. And his popular internet site currently contains illustrations by special effects artist Steve Neal, inspired by the author's new book, The Secret School. But beyond the movies, books, websites, and general hoopla surrounding him, Strieber is simply a man who believes visitor contact can strengthen and advance the human race.
We're beginning to accept reality. And the reward for accepting reality is to become a much larger scale species. It means that we're on our way out into the cosmos.
Lawson, of course, begs to differ.
Like Carl Sagan says, extraordinary claims mean that there's a need for extraordinary evidence, and there isn't any extraordinary evidence for abductions.
Well, it doesn't seem right to let either side have the last word on alien abductions, so we'll do that ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, the debate continues to rage, but we need to pause for this commercial message. Next, a trip to Bob's basement for some rocketing and rolling, and the mortals who brought us the immortals of Highlander. Stay glued.
Sci-Fi Buzz.
Mike headed over to Bob's basement, but he left this intro for me to read. Does anybody else want to do this? I get nervous.
Dave, you can
fine.
do
You'll do it.
I get so nervous alone on
You're good at
camera.
this, Dave. You're good at it. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. And now the news.
Residents are running for their lives.
The sky is falling, or so the media would have you believe. This weekend, NBC airs its big-budget miniseries, Asteroid, and that's just for starters. There are at least 3 asteroids on a crash course with Earth. Feature films in the works as well. Steven Spielberg plans to make Deep Impact about a comet on a crash course with Earth. Dante's Peak producer, Galen Hurd, has a script called Armageddon about asteroids on a crash course with Earth. And Relic director Peter Hyams is writing a script for James Cameron about, you guessed it, asteroids on a crash course with Earth. Consider yourself warned. Asteroids aren't the only things floating randomly through the universe. The Robinson family is getting ready to blast off again in a brand new big screen version of the 60s classic Lost in Space. British actor Gary Oldman is the first to be cast in the new film, playing Dr. Zachary Smith, the character made famous by Jonathan Harris on the series. Oldman, who starred as Bram Stoker's Dracula, is reportedly being paid $4 million for the role. And that's the latest buzz.
And now, once again, it's time to go to Bob's basement to visit one of the world's biggest collectors of science fiction memorabilia and the guy who really knows his way around a dumpster, Bob.
3, 2, 1, blast off, Bob.
That's it.
Oh,
Rocket
these
ships
are
are
great.
me. Rocket ships are me.
Oh,
Look at
rockets
this.
are us.
Isn't that great? Yeah.
What do you see, Mike? Well, I'm not even going to tell you what it is.
Oh, come on, let me see it.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Show me your stuff first.
Oh, okay. Destination Moon, the first serious science fiction movie made by George Pal.
What year?
This 1949, actually, they released in 50. This whole big gantry, this big giant ship, this was the first set I was ever on as a kid.
How'd you get invited to the set?
Well, I went to school with a kid, you know, that his dad was a grip on this film.
Yeah.
And he knew I liked science fiction. He picked us up after school one day, and I went over to the set. Big, full-size thing of the moon. The whole soundstage was full of it.
Now, this was kind of their version. What year was this?
This is same year, 1950.
1950.
Rocket
This is a
ship
50 spaceship.
Yep. Rocket Ship XM. Wade Williams bought the rights to this film back in the 70s and hired us, some friends of mine and I, to build this new ship and shoot new shots to have something in the film. This is out of styrofoam. You believe that? That's just
Now,
out of
did you
styrofoam.
put the staples on the front for the ladder?
I did, and a friend of mine did.
Yeah.
But they're staples. Yeah,
Staples.
You're not supposed to notice
come
that, Mike.
on.
Oh, come on.
It was 1950.
All right.
Who's going to care now?
Yeah.
Same movie?
Yeah, same movie. This is the one for using the long shots.
You know, I got a crick in my back. Does this thing come with batteries?
The batteries are there. It could work pretty good. Yeah, I can turn it on. if
Thank
want.
you.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool. Yeah. I know I've seen this in a movie, but I don't know which one.
Well, this is from Flight of the Navigator. That's what that's from.
Yes. Morphing, right?
It looked like a walnut at first,
Yeah.
and sleeks out. Isn't that cool? That's
Check
neat.
this out, though.
Oh,
A screw hole.
Don't give that away, man. That's the effect thing. That's how it was held on a rod so they could shoot it.
Well,
otherwise you see your hand holding.
All right. I do recognize this. This is for Airplane was one of my favorite movies.
Well, this is Airplane, too.
Number 2.
Right.
Robert Hayes piloting this thing.
This is the one where the kid starts playing the video game and the ship just goes nuts in outer space, right?
Yeah.
That's the model. This is the escape pod the bad guys try to get away in.
Remember that?
Remember that
Yes.
thing? Yeah.
I'm going to guess 50s again.
1953, The Conquest of Space.
Man, what's this made of?
Made out of metal. Another George Pal film. This is the transport ship that comes up from Earth to a space station. From there on, they get in a ship like this, and they go to Mars. from Conquest of Space. They fly this ship. This is made, this particular model is made for the matte shots where they had little teeny, you could see it in space, little matte things. Then, it was made off of this one. Here's a 9-foot model. Look at this guy. This is really cool.
Oh, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
Just gigantic.
This is the one, it goes in, when it lands on Mars, it lands horizontally like a plane. Then when it lands, the ship, like this,
pops off,
pops up like this, detaches itself, and then it flies off. Because going back, they don't need the wings.
And why not? Why wouldn't they need wings going back?
Well, because Mars had atmosphere. It had atmosphere. This doesn't. It doesn't need going into space.
Yeah, well,
you've got plenty of that. You know what that's
I
like.
got plenty of space
okay,
right here.
See what I mean? Yeah.
Come on.
Come on.
Here we go.
All right. Oh,
I knew we were looking at rockets.
Yeah, I know
so
that.
I brought this in for you.
Oh man, that's cool.
I found this out jogging. I went by this vacant lot. It was just laying there. Do you think that's worth anything?
You found it in a vacant lot?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, you know, somebody's probably looking for this.
Oh.
So you're the guys that have my damn rocket ship. Get away from that thing, Mike. Get away! Hey, Bob! Bob, give him the rocket! Bob, rocket!
This is Janice Jacobson. I would like to recommend a new paperback by Jack McDevitt called Ancient Shores. This is the sort of thing I used to read science fiction for. It's a great adventure story on a wide scale. It has mystery and awe and wonder, but it has believable characters and a very interesting premise. I literally could not put this one down. I read it in one sitting, and I don't even finish much science fiction anymore. That's the best recommendation I can give it.
I'm Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod. I am immortal.
When Highlander, starring Christopher Lambert, was released in 1986, no one could have predicted its enormous popularity. The film has spawned sequels, a hit television show, and some of the most devoted fans this side of Star Trek.
MacLeod, I was born 2,437 years ago.
At first, the movie's unusual storyline about an immortal race that can only be killed when their heads are chopped off left many American moviegoers bewildered, as did director Russell Mulcahy's cutting-edge visual style. Although the film now attracts a growing cult audience, it was initially a bona fide box office bomb.
Well, I always believed in the movie, you know, so it was in some ways it was actually never really a shock to me. You know, it was sort of a shock that it got panned so much and that it sort of like lasted 4 days or whatever in the cinema. I mean, that was probably more of a shock than the shock that it's done so well over a period of time, and it seems to be increasing in its popularity.
Although the American public initially snubbed the film, Highlander was an immediate hit in Europe. The success of the film overseas allowed producers Peter Davis and Bill Panzer to create 2 sequels, both again starring Christopher Lambert. And while the role of Connor MacLeod helped Lambert become a star, the actor says he is unlikely to play the Scottish swordsman again.
No, I think I've done my bit. I mean, you know, a trilogy is good. It's impossible to say never, but for the time being, I'm done with Highlander.
While the Lambert films proved successful in Europe, American audiences barely noticed them. So what finally caused the Highlander craze to catch on in the States?
TV series. In all fairness, I think that once we decided that this was a proper vehicle for American and worldwide television, it found a whole new audience.
Signs for the prophecy are all in place. You're all that stands in my way.
Highlander, the series, debuted in 1992 with Adrian Paul stepping into the lead immortal role. Today, some 10 to 12 million viewers tune in each week to watch the adventures of Duncan MacLeod. Many of these viewers are hardcore Highlander fans who scrutinize every aspect of the action-packed saga.
When we were making the first feature, we thought we were making a film. We didn't think that we'd be starting something where you make certain statements about the legend. You're stuck with it, baby. I mean, you cannot change these basic tenets.
Finished your beauty sleep?
We're making history here, MacLeod. No point in rushing it.
There's groups here in America and in England and Scotland who sort of go up into the hills and dress up like Highlanders and repeat Connery's opening speech, you know, we came down from centuries. And they know this film line by line, and more than I do. I mean, it's quite extraordinary, the clans that this film has sort of organized.
These are exciting times for Highlander fans. The television series is in its 5th season. A Highlander website has never been hotter, and Republic Pictures recently teamed with the creators of the original film for a 10th anniversary Laserdisc edition. The special director's cut of Highlander features a pristine copy of the movie, never-before-seen footage, and an array of other Highlander goodies. And yes, fans can look forward to more feature films in the future. In fact, producers Davis and Panzer are developing an all-new trilogy for Miramax Films. It seems the whole Highlander concept has become immortal.
I mean, it's a great thought. Who wants to live forever, who dares to love forever. It's a fantastic notion. I mean, you know, it's endlessly romantic, endlessly intriguing, and we haven't even scratched the surface of some of the possibilities.
Coming up, the best-selling British writer who gave us the Discworld books, Terry Pratchett. Do not disconnect.
Hey, Suze, I think our chicken breast is almost done in that brand new Sci-Fi Buzz microwave. Plus, we have some drinks called Shandies. I don't know much about these. That Susan put this together. She says it's a British drink in honor of Terry Pratchett, huh?
That's right. Terry Pratchett is so popular that 10% of all the science fiction and fantasy novels sold in England are sold by this guy. And we got to meet him recently because he was in the United States promoting his latest Discworld novel, Feet of Clay.
Is there alcohol in this?
Terry Pratchett lives near Stonehenge in the English town of Wiltshire. In the UK, 1 out of every 10 sci-fi and fantasy books sold is written by this man. Most of his sales and fame come from the inventive collection of books in his Discworld series. Books like Feet of Clay, Men-at-Arms, and Lords and Ladies. A full-blown parody of life on Earth, Discworld is a pizza-shaped planet that rests on the backs of 4 giant elephants who in turn stand on the shell of a 10,000-mile-long turtle that plods through space.
Discworld is the classic world of fantasy and fairy stories, but treated as if it was real. For example, the trolls and the dwarves and the elves and the gnomes and the humans are all there, but you haven't got guys with helmets and big swords saying things like, "Ho, landlord, a pint of your finest ale," because people only say that when they're on serious medication. It's a society that works. And funnily enough, I find that that generates far more plots than the classic world of fantasy. Here's a magic ring, let's go 3,000 miles and chuck it in a volcano. I'm not knocking Tolkien, but this is the 90s and we have to think about things in a different way.
Just as Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was more satire than sci-fi, Terry Pratchett's Discworld could be considered more parody than fantasy. That may be why a lot of genre fans have yet to discover Discworld.
When we held the first Discworld convention in England a few months ago, I think about 3 times as many people turned up as we thought, and we had to turn, and the hotel had to turn people away. We had about 900 people in the end. Most of the people that came had never been to a science fiction convention before. Most of them didn't think of themselves as science fiction or fantasy fans. They were Discworld fans.
Terry Pratchett has penned 20 Discworld books to date. Each year, he continues to prove that fantasy can be funny by adding 2 more books to the series. In fact, he wants all readers to understand what a good definition of fantasy is.
I'd been to Australia and I looked at the Australian night sky and it was beautiful. I couldn't see any constellations because there were so many damn stars in the way. And when I tell people about this, they say, well, is this what fantasy is? That you see something new and wonderful for the first time, and that is exactly what fantasy isn't. That's just seeing something new. Because when I looked at the horizon, I saw the constellation of Orion, and then I realized that Orion was upside down. It makes perfect sense. I was in the southern hemisphere, I was upside down, Orion was still the right way up. Now that's fantasy, because I probably had not looked at the constellation of Orion for 30 years. Yeah, it was there in the sky, and I was aware it was there, but I hadn't studied it in that way since I was 10. That's what fantasy, good fantasy, should do. It should take something that you are so familiar with that you no longer look at. And it should turn it 180 degrees, and it should show it to you again so you see it fresh for the first time.
I got to remake the movie and get it finished the way I want.
Find out how and why the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition, The Force Returns. Sci-Fi Channel next.
Okay, before we go, one more time, remember, the new millennium, the 21st century, starts on what date? That's right, January 1st, 2001, not 2000. Do not question that. And do not question someone when they say, hey, you want to watch Sci-Fi Buzz? Just watch it. See you next week.